But it wasn't like you guys make it sound like ICE agents kicked down the door and grabbed the 2-year-old and threw him on an airplane. That's misleading.
Yeah.
That's just not true.
Just to be clear, because I do want to get to...
All right, I don't even know where to begin. The headline: 3 U.S. citizens, ages 2, 4, and 7, swiftly deported from Louisiana. The Washington Post. I'm sure you have heard about all of these U.S. citizen children that are all being deported. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I really did not want to make a video about this, but I have to, and you need to know what's going on. These children have not been deported. Here's the real story, and honestly, it's very misleading, and I can't believe Democrats are running with this story.
Okay, let's talk now about some new reporting that came in overnight. I want to just go through it for you and for our audience. 3 U.S. citizen children have been deported with their mothers. Now, this is according to the Washington Post. The family's lawyer says one of them is a 4-year-old with stage 4 cancer, deported without medication or ability to contact doctors. The family's lawyers are also saying their clients were denied communication with family and legal representatives before being deported, and it's raising concerns about the issue of due process, that it's being violated. So let me ask you, is everyone on U.S. soil, citizens and non-citizens, entitled to due process?
And remember, this is the claim: 3 U.S. citizens have been deported, swiftly deported. Look how misleading this is.
Yes, of course. But let me tell you, it looks, in immigration standing, the laws are very specific. If you're in this country unlawfully, you have no right to be here and you must be removed. That's what the law says. Somehow over the last 20 years, we've completely lost this notion that somehow or completely adopted this idea that, yes, we have immigration laws, but once you come into our country illegally, it triggers all kinds of rights that can keep you here indefinitely. That's why we were being flooded at the border. And we've ended that, and that's why you see a historically low number of people not just trying to cross our border, trying to cross the border into Panama, all the way down in the Darien Gap. I mean, it's been a huge help for those countries as well. On the headline, that's a misleading headline. Okay, 3 U.S. citizens, ages 4, 7, and 2, were not deported. Their mothers, who are legally in this country, were deported. The children went with their mothers. If those children are U.S. citizens, they can come back into the United States if there's their father or someone here who wants to assume them. But ultimately, who was deported was their mothers who were here illegally. The children just went with their mothers.
Do you see how disgusting this is? The Trump administration literally allowed for an illegal immigrant to make a choice. Hey, do you want your children, even though they are U.S. citizens and they can stay in the country? The mother said yes. And not only that, the children, if they want, they can return to the country anytime they want, because they are a U.S. citizen. Does that sound like a deportation to you?
But it wasn't like you guys make it sound like ICE agents kicked down the door and grabbed the 2-year-old and threw him on an airplane. That's misleading. That's just not true.
Just to be clear, because I do want to get to the overhaul at the State Department, is it the U.S. policy to deport children, even U.S. citizens, with their families, and I hear what you're saying, without due process? Just to be very clear there.
Well, No. Again, if someone's in this country unlawfully, illegally, that person gets deported. If that person is with a 2-year-old child or has a 2-year-old child and says, I want to take my child with me, well, then you have 2 choices. You can say, yes, of course you can take your child, whether they're a citizen or not, because it's your child. Or you can say, yes, you can go, but your child must stay behind. And then your headlines would read, U.S. holding hostage 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 7-year-old while mother deported.
Now look, at the end of the day, this news article, it's not even misleading, it's not even illogical, it's just not true. It's like literally a lie. 3 U.S. citizens, ages 2, 4, and 7, swiftly deported. Were they deported or were they sent with their mother who was deported? This is where we get into this gray area. And again, the fact that Democrats are running with this, I cannot believe it. But even Tom Homan had to address a different situation on the same day that Marco Rubio did.
On Friday, a federal judge who was appointed by President Trump said a 2-year-old American citizen child had been sent to Honduras with the mother who was deported. But the judge said, quote, there was no meaningful process. So again, this is another similar situation and dynamic. Shouldn't there be special care when these deportation cases involve small American-born children?
Well, first of all, I disagree with the judge. There was due process. That female had due process at great taxpayer expense and was ordered by the immigration judge after those hearings. So she had due process. Again, this is parenting 101. You can decide to take that child with you, or you can decide to leave the child here with a relative or another spouse. Having a U.S. citizen child doesn't make you immune from our laws of the country. American families get separated every day by law enforcement. Thousands of times a day when a parent gets put in jail, the child can't go with them. These, if you're an illegal alien, come to this country, and you decide to have a U.S. citizen child, that's on you. You put yourself in that position.
Well, when it came to this particular case, you just pointed out that they could have made arrangements. The father tried, actually, to make arrangements, as we understand it through our reporting. But he and the mother, who were separated since she was in detention after showing up for her appointment, was only allowed a very brief phone call. The father tried to petition to get the child handed over to an American citizen relative. So the mother had to make this decision and took the child with her. It just seems like there could be some more time frame here around due process allowed. That's what the judge is saying there should have been more of a process here.
There was due process. The two-year-old baby was left with the mother because the mother signed a document requesting her 2-year-old baby go with her. That's the parent's decision. I don't think the judge knows specifics of this case. 2-year-old went with the mom. The mom signed a paper saying, "I want my 2-year-old to go with me." That's a parent's decision. It's not a government decision. It's a parent's decision.
The father wrote a note. Anyhow, we have to leave it there. Director, thank you for your time today. We'll be right back.
That's right, the producer of that segment briefly cut the show off to say, hey, we got to go to commercial break. You can literally hear it in her earpiece if you go back and listen to the clip. Now, this is the policy. Parents must decide whether to leave their children in the U.S. or take them abroad, often under significant emotional and financial strain. Now, I'm not about to sit here and be evil about the situation. This is obviously a very, very, very difficult situation for all sides. This is somebody who ran away to the United States, and look, probably a lot of these illegal immigrants are not the worst people ever at all. They had a kid in America, but now they can legally be deported. Obviously, they're going to take the kid. Not all of them take the kid, but if they want to, they can. For some reason, Democrats are not throwing that part in there that the U.S. allows for the parents to take the kid, and what Marco Rubio said is absolutely true, because if the deportee gets deported, obviously the headline's going to look terrible and say, Donald Trump has separated a mother and her 2-year-old. This is obviously just a very tricky situation all around, but the other argument from Republicans is, look, if we make this a legal thing where parents can have kids in America, then nobody can ever be deported, and it's going to create for more chaos in the United States. Now, I hate to do this, but this is Harry Sisson. He is a very prominent figure in the Democrat Party, very prominent on TikTok, especially for the younger generation, the college-era kids. Here's the problem. Someone like him is reporting the story, and he's like, wow, how could the Trump administration, how could they deport children? And to be honest with you, if this was true, it would be disgusting, and I would be making a video against Donald Trump. But it's simply not true. But the problem is, the headline are so misleading. Then you have people like Harry, we're about to play the clip, make the videos he does, and you can see it spirals out of control.
Major breaking news, a federal judge raised alarm tonight that the Trump administration deported a 2-year-old American citizen to Honduras with no due process. U.S. District Judge Terry Doughty, a Trump appointee, said the child, identified in court papers by the initials VML, appeared to have been released in Honduras earlier Friday, along with her Honduran-born mother and sister who had been detained by immigration officials earlier in the week. The judge on Friday scheduled a hearing for May 16, which he said was, quote, in the interest of dispelling our strong suspicion that the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful process. The child, who was born in New Orleans in 2023, had been with her mother and sister during a regular immigration check-in at the New Orleans Office of Immigration and Customs Enforcement on Tuesday. Now, the Trump administration said in court that the mother told ICE officials that she wished to take VML with her to Honduras. The filing included a handwritten note in Spanish they claimed was written by the mother and confirmed her intent. But the judge said he had hoped to verify that information. The judge wrote, quote, "The government contends that this is all okay because the mother wishes that the child could be deported with her, but the court doesn't know that." Yeah, a 2-year-old U.S. citizen deported to Honduras under Donald Trump's administration.
And look, like I said, I have no problem with siding with Harry Sisson or anyone if this is true. But again, when you have misleading statements, you talk in a condescending tone, you're not bringing up all of the facts of the situations, and you're being misleading, this is extremely problematic. Let us continue.
ACLU says the Trump administration deported 3 U.S. citizen children with their families, including one suffering from metastatic cancer. A judge overseeing one of the cases expressed his, quote, "strong suspicion that the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful process." If that's the case, and the federal government deported U.S. citizens with no due process, what can you, as one of the top elected officials in the country, do about it?
Well, first, what he's doing here is just outrageous and against every iota of what Americans believe. And this is not the only instance. There are reportedly other instances where U.S. citizen children were deported without any due process. Due process is a hallmark of what our country is all about, rule of law, and ICE and Trump seem to break it in every single way. He believes he's a king. He is not. And the American people are totally against what he is doing in this regard. The polling that you showed today and the data from the other New York Times and Washington Post shows the same thing. We are highlighting this in every way we can because the more the American people know, the better. That's why Chris Van Hollen went to El Salvador last week. That is why Democrats are talking about this in town hall meetings across the country. And the more the American people know, the less they're going to like what Trump does.
All right, like I said, this is a very sad situation, really no matter how you view it. These are just children, and I said from the beginning, I really did not want to make a video about this, but honestly, to me, it does look like Democrats, they are using these children for these headlines now when they have no idea what the heck is going on. It's their mother. Obviously, they're not going to know the legal implications. Now, the good thing is, at the end of the day, these children, as U.S. citizens, they can come back to America whenever they want. So, hopefully, everything works out for those children. I hope God shows mercy upon them. God shows mercy on all of us, and God bless, and we'll see you all later. Thank you guys so much.